Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yamini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of our homeland, Eretz Yisroel. May Kadosh Baruch Hu, may God continue to protect our brave soldiers, and may God return all the hostages from Gaza immediately. This week's Parsha Perspective is in loving memory of Edward ben Efraim, Shlomo ben Edward, and Yirachmiel Daniel ben Gedalia. May their souls be uplifted and may their memories be a blessing. Before I begin, this week's episode is in honor of Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka, the wife of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Her yahrzeit, the anniversary of her passing, falls out on the 22nd of Shvat, the release date of this episode. As the daughter of the previous Chabad Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, she was not only a leader in her own right, but a true partner in every campaign and mission the Rebbe undertook. She lived a life of quiet yet unwavering dedication, influencing generations without seeking recognition. The depth of her humility and devotion shaped the very foundation of the modern Chabad movement, inspiring countless of Jews worldwide. And in her merit may we experience the ultimate redemption and the coming of Mashiach. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Mishpatim. Our Parsha has 53 new mitzvos, forming the bedrock of Jewish law and morality. And these laws define a just and a godly society, covering the essential aspects of justice, responsibility, and divine service. They establish the guiding principles of governing slavery, personal injury, and murder, as well as the responsibilities of one entrusting to another's property. The Parsha also details the mitzvahs of ascending to the Beis Hamikdash 3 times a year, the laws of Shemitah and Yovel, the sabbatical year, karbones, sacrifices, and Hashavas Aveda, returning a lost object. Moshe Rabbeinu then conveys God's assurance of divine blessings and rewards for those who uphold His commandments, His mitzvahs. The Jewish people are promised protection, prosperity, and expansion. The pasuk says, "There'll be no miscarriages in your land, your borders will extend, and your enemies will fall before you." And these promises reinforce the inseparable bond between spiritual commitment and material well-being. And by living according to the Torah and the mitzvahs and the commandments, the Jewish nation is not just rewarded, they step into the natural flow of divine purpose, where righteousness brings about stability, strength, and divine favor. The Parsha concludes with God summoning Moshe Rabbeinu back up Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, where he was to remain for 40 days and 40 nights. And before leaving, Moshe Rabbeinu prepares the nation. He appoints his brother Aaron and his nephew Hur to answer any legal questions in his absence, and instructs the Shivim Zakenim, the 70 elders, on also their responsibilities to the Jewish people. And as Moshe prepares to ascend the mountain, God's glory sets the peak ablaze. The Jewish nation stood at a distance, watching in awe and in fear as Moshe Rabbeinu disappears into the thick clouds, stepping beyond human comprehension into a conversation, into a moment alone with God. However, a question comes to mind. The first mitzvah that Moshe Rabbeinu gives the Jewish people is the law of the Eved Ivri, the Jewish slave. And this applies to a Jew who steals but cannot repay, or who has debts that they cannot repay, and thus requiring them to work off their debt through temporary servitude. And if they choose to remain and stay beyond their initial term, their ears are pierced, and they remain until the Jubilee year, until the 50th year, Yovel. But why is this the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people? This law applies only under rare circumstances, affecting a small percentage of Jews throughout history. It is also inapplicable in the desert, as it can only take effect in the land of Israel, in Eretz Yisroel. Why would God begin with a mitzvah that seems so limited in scope, rather than one with a broader significance to the entire Jewish nation? The Chizkuni, which is a French commentary from the 13th century, gives a simple explanation. He writes that since the Jewish people just emerged from over 250 years of slavery and oppression, it makes sense that the first mitzvah they receive and they learn about was the Eved Ivri, the Jewish slave. This commandment immediately redefined servitude, ensuring that they understood that Torah slavery was nothing like their suffering in Egypt. This mitzvah teaches us some fundamental principles. First, that servitude is temporary, only lasting 60 years unless the slave is willing to stay beyond his initial term. And second, that the master must treat the slave with dignity and respect, in stark contrast to how the Egyptians brutalized the Jewish people. So although this law isn't applicable, it can only take effect in the land of Israel, it was given immediately to the Jewish nation for a reason. The Jewish people had to unlearn the Egyptian model of slavery, persecution, and tragedy, and internalize Torah's definition of justice, responsibility, and morality. However, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rav Menachem Mendel Schneerson, blessed memory, gives a deeper and more profound explanation. He writes that this mitzvah is given now to teach the Jewish people a fundamental truth about our existence. A Jew will always serve something. Either we accept God's sovereignty, living with purpose and connection, or we become enslaved to something transient. The choice is not between freedom and servitude, it is between serving the eternal, the King of all kings, our Father in heaven, or being trapped by what is temporary. When a person serves God, their actions have meaning. They have growth, and they have a lasting impact. Their efforts become eternal, shaping generations. But when a person serves human constructs, their achievements belong to something that is fleeting, something temporary. Their work they do will never become truly its own. The Rebbe explains that the Jewish people and the Jewish nation as a whole throughout history only exist in one of these two realities. Either we accept the yoke of heaven, submitting to God's divine plan, or we allow external forces to shape our existence. But this is not just an ancient struggle, it defines Jewish existence today. Societies change, but the challenge remains. Will we let the values of the world dictate our identity? Or will we live by the eternal truth of God, by the eternal truth of the Torah and its mitzvahs? True freedom is not about rejecting servitude, it is about choosing whom we serve. The Jewish people received this mitzvah immediately after leaving Egypt to internalize this lesson. They serve Parai, but now they can choose whom they serve. They can choose to serve God. And this is the essence of our journey. We are always serving something. The question is, what will it be? The Rebbe's message today, unfortunately, is a timely one. The release date of this episode is a painful day, February 20th, 2025. This morning we woke up to the heartbreaking videos of the brutal monsters of Hamas returning the coffins of those who they have slaughtered. A family murdered in cold blood, held in captivity for over 500 days, only now returning, but not alive. And while we know that life must move forward today, it feels impossible to see how. How does a father, a husband, a man like Yarden Bibas wake up to a world without his family just following his release from captivity? There are no words that can describe his pain, no human effort that can fill the emptiness left behind. And so I pray. I pray that God reveals himself to Yarden, to the extended Bibas family, and to all those who are broken beyond repair. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu show them his love, his presence, his comfort in ways that we can't comprehend. I pray that God avenges the blood of every soul taken and killed for sanctifying his great name. And I pray for the ultimate redemption, because anything else is not enough. Only a world transformed, a world where darkness is erased, where there's no evil, we will make sense of this pain. But until then, we hold on to faith. We hold on to the Torah and its mitzvahs. We hold on to each other, and we hold on to the unshakable truth that justice will come, and God will not stay silent. I read this quote, and I think it's important. The Jewish people do not break. We are shattered, yet we rise. Burned, yet we shine. Buried, yet we grow. Having meaningful Shabbos. Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.